Hello and welcome to another episode of China Record. There's always news about Huawei's breakthrough on every news outlet throughout the world, particularly in the US media. In our earlier episode, we talked about Huawei's breakthrough putting the US into a red code alert. We questioned how China's Huawei could make a phone with advanced chips while China's tech companies cannot access US chip-making tools. But now let us dig deeper into Huawei's chip breakthrough and how it may pose a new threat to Apple, the biggest tech company in the US. Let us find out. The current situation of the China-US trade war is complex and uncertain. The trade war started in January 2018 when the U.S. imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, accusing China of unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. China retaliated with tariffs on U.S. goods, and the two sides have been locked in a bitter dispute ever since. In January 2020, the U.S. and China signed a preliminary deal called the Phase 1 deal, in which China agreed to increase its imports of U.S. goods and services by $200 billion over 2 years, and to strengthen its intellectual property protection. The U.S. agreed to reduce some of the tariffs it had imposed on China. However, the Phase 1 deal did not address some of the thorniest issues, such as China's subsidies to its state-owned enterprises, its industrial policies, and its role in global technology markets. The U.S. also maintained most of the tariffs it had imposed on China and continued to impose sanctions on Chinese companies and officials over human rights and national security issues. The trade war has had negative impacts on both countries' economies as well as on the global economy. According to a study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, the trade war reduced U.S. exports to China by 26.3% and Chinese exports to the U.S. by 8.5% in 2019. The study also found that the trade war reduced global trade by 0.4% and global real income by 0.2% in 2019. The trade war has also increased tensions and mistrust between the two countries, especially amid the COVID-19 pandemic, which originated in China and spread to the US and other countries. The US has accused China of covering up the outbreak and failing to cooperate with international investigations. China has accused the US of politicizing the pandemic and spreading conspiracy theories. One of China's tech companies become a victim from the China-US trade war. It is Huawei. The trade war between the U.S. and China has had a significant impact on Huawei, a Chinese telecom giant that produces smartphones and network equipment. The U.S. has imposed sanctions and restrictions on Huawei, accusing it of posing a cybersecurity and espionage threat to the U.S. and its allies. The U.S. has banned Huawei from accessing U.S. technology and components, such as Google's Android operating system, Qualcomm's chips, and Intel's processors. The American government has also pressured other countries to exclude Huawei from their 5G networks, such as Australia, Japan, and the UK. As a result, Huawei has faced challenges in maintaining its global market share and revenue as its smartphone sales have declined sharply outside China. According to its latest financial report, Huawei's revenue for 2021 was down 29% from the previous year, and its smartphone shipments fell by more than 50%. Huawei has also lost its position as the second largest global smartphone vendor to Apple. However, in response to the challenge, Huawei has tried to adapt to the trade war by developing its own alternatives to US technology and components, such as its HarmonyOS operating system, its Kirin chips, and its App Gallery app store. Huawei has also focused more on its domestic market, where it still enjoys strong demand and support from the Chinese government. Besides the sanctions and challenge from Western countries, Huawei still made the breakthrough that shocked the world. Huawei's latest breakthrough is its processor for its flagship smartphone, the Mate 60 Pro. The processor, called the Kirin 9000S, is a 5G chip that Huawei developed using its own design and technology, despite the US sanctions that have restricted its access to foreign chip suppliers and software. The Kirin 9000S is said to be faster and more efficient than its previous processors and to offer better communication and network performance. Huawei has also made breakthroughs in electronic design automation (EDA) tools for chips produced at and above 14-nanometer technology, which could help it overcome the challenges of chip production and innovation. The Mate 60 Pro is Huawei's attempt to regain its global market share and revenue, which have declined sharply due to the US sanctions and the loss of Google's Android operating system. The phone also features Huawei's own HarmonyOS operating system, its App Gallery App Store, and a satellite phone function. However, the phone still faces challenges in terms of availability, compatibility, and legal issues in some markets. Huawei's chip breakthrough may pose a new threat to Apple in China's smartphone market, where both brands are competing for the top spot. According to the data from BankMyCell, Huawei had a 23.22% market share in the third quarter of 2023, followed by Apple with 22.21%. This is a narrow gap of only 1.01%, which means that any change in consumer preference or product performance could tip the balance. Huawei's new chip, the Kirin 9000, is said to support 5G, offer better communication experience, and a more stable network connection. These are important features for Chinese consumers who are increasingly demanding high-speed and reliable internet access. Huawei's chip also shows its technological innovation and self-reliance, which could appeal to Chinese consumers who are proud of their country's achievements and wary of foreign interference. Apple, on the other hand, has been gaining traction in China with its iPhone 14 series, which also supports 5G and has a sleek design and powerful performance. Apple has almost monopolized the premium market segment in China with 80% market share as of August 2023. Apple's brand image and loyal customer base are also strong advantages in the competitive market. Therefore, Huawei's chip breakthrough may pose a new threat to Apple by challenging its technological leadership and market dominance in China. However, Apple may still have an edge over Huawei in terms of product quality, customer satisfaction, and global appeal. The outcome of this rivalry will depend on how both brands can innovate and adapt to the changing market conditions and consumer preferences.